This is the tape tutorial for the program system Basic RAM Database. This tape is prepared especially for people who are new to computers and computing, but want to work with materials that teach programming and function as program systems. Okay, now to get started with this program, the first thing you should do is turn your computer off, okay, if you've had it in operation. The reason for this is that I want the machine to be totally clear, and that is probably the best way for us to achieve it. Then let's open the door to the disk drive and take the program disk Basic RAM Database out of the sleeve and put it into the disk drive. Now if you have two disk drives in your system, let's use disk drive number 1. This entire system is set up to work with one disk drive, and but if you have two plugged into the controller card, then just use drive number 1. Okay, let's insert the disk in the normal way, close the door, and we will start the computer. There we go, and it makes the usual beeps and sounds. You'll see our title frame flash on the screen. AV Systems presents Basic RAM Database, copyright 1983 by Adrian, Vance. And then the drive will continue to run, and now you should be looking at, do you have a language card in slot 0? If you do not have a language card in slot 0, it really doesn't matter. This is a small routine that we've put on the disk that'll boost the disk operating system into the language card and free another 10K of memory for use in the database system. But even without it, we're going to have thousands and thousands of bytes for the database, and we really won't need it. In order that we might all begin at the same place, let's just say no, even though you may have a language card in slot 0. But for today, in order that our numbers appear the same or somewhat the same, let's say no. All right, that activates the drive, and you will now see the main menu for the first time. And this main menu is one that we'll come back to very often. There are 4 choices on it. Start a new system is number 1. Number 2, edit/add to files. Number 3, search or sort files. And number 4, analyze data files. Okay, let's start a new system. So we'll touch number 1. Now you should be looking at a screen that says at the very top, New System, and then it reads, this routine defines and accepts inputs for a new RAM database. What is the new system's name? Okay, well today let's start a computer phone book. So we'll type phone book and touch return to make the input. Now we see the question, how many data fields? Well, ordinarily in a phone book, we would have the name, the address, the city and state, the phone number. And today, in order that we may have some numeric data to work with, let's have a category, a field for people, the number of people in each family for which we're going to install a phone number. And so we'll have 5 fields altogether. So let's input the number 5. Okay, and of course this time we have to touch return to actually make the input. How many entries will there be in the system? Well, let's say that we know about 50 people for whom we would be making entries. So let's input 50. Now I want to point out a couple things here. At this point, when you're first setting up a new system, the answers that you should give, as in this case, are answers based on your anticipation for the system, what you will need for the entire system. Today we are not going to make 50 entries, but we do expect that this system will require 50 entries. Now the reason for answering questions this way is that this system has limitations. And if we let the system know what we expect it to do, then it in turn will talk back to us, will tell us whether or not it can do it. So we'll input the number 50 because that's what we expect to use. All right, field number 1 now. We're asked here to input the name for field number 1. Well, the name for field number 1 is name. Okay, we have NAME. Now at this point, I would like you to add to it 6 dots or periods. Okay. Then we're asked how many spaces per name. Well, the longest name that I can think of for somebody that I know has 20 20 letters and spaces in it. So let's input the number 20. Field number 2 will be the address. And in this case, let's add 3 dots to the address. All right, now by adding these dots, what we're actually going to do is set up a system that'll present itself on the screen at the time that we're making the entries with a sort of a square presentation. If we don't do this, what happens is that the data appears to run all over the place. The name will be on the left, the address will be on the right because, you know, that word is longer. So we can make all of the names for the fields of the same length by adding these periods or dots. Okay, so we'll touch return and make this input. In the case of address, let's again input the number 20. That's about the longest address that we can think of for this system, at least for my friends. Okay, and field number 3 will be city. Let's just put city here, not city and state, because our friends, by and large, are going to live in the same area as we. Now this time we will need 6 dots to fill up that space so that we get an even front here. And in the case of city, let's say 15 spaces. Okay, field number 4 will be the phone number. PHONE, let's leave 1 space, and then we'll insert the number symbol, which we get by holding down Shift and touching the key that says 3 and has the number symbol above. And this time we will add 3 dots, and we'll make the input. And for the phone number, including the area code and the 2 hyphens, we need 12 spaces. Okay, and then the last one is people. And we will need 4 dots to give that the even appearance we're looking for. And the number of spaces that we will need for the number of people that we're going to be inputting will be 2, because that would include up to 99 people, and I can't imagine a family with more than 99 people in it, right? We could probably get away with 1, but you know. Okay, now when you touch return, you should see at the top of the screen your plan calls for using 3,450 bytes. The memory now has 32,561 bytes, so there is a surplus. Touch key to continue. Now let me say something here. Your screen should say 3,450 bytes, all right, but it may have some number other than 32,561. The most probable reason is that you have an Apple IIe, which has a larger memory than the 2 does. But if you have a 2 and you have certain other cards or things in it, the number that is available to you may be different from this. It may be a little smaller than this. Don't worry about it if you see some number other than 32,561. It simply means that your machine is configured in a little different way. Okay, now let's touch the key. And we see here are the fields. We have the first field is name with 20 spaces. The second field is address with 20 spaces. The third field is city with 15. Number 4 is phone number with 12. And number 5 is people with 2. And we're asked any corrections. All right, just for the sake of illustration, let's say yes. So we touch Y. And it says, which one? Let's change number 5, people. Okay, so we'll input number 5. And it says people. What is the correct name? All right, let's put in persons. Now, we'll only need to put in 3 dots at this point because persons contains 1 letter more than people. Okay, so we make that input. And the correct number of spaces, again, will be 2. It's possible you may know a family with 10 people in it, I don't know, but let's use 2. Okay, now we see on the screen your plan calls for using 3,450 bytes. The memory now has 32,561 bytes, so there is a surplus. Touch key to continue. And again, we go back to the screen image that shows us the name and spaces for each of the fields that we're going to be using. Any corrections? Well, now there are no corrections. Okay, so it asks us to make some inputs. Now this is what I would like you to do. I would like you to make 10 inputs in the same manner that we've indicated here, name, address, city, and so forth. And when you get to number 10, go ahead and make the last input, and you will see entry number 11, and the screen will look very much like it does now. There will just be name and a blank line. And at that point, I would like you to restart the tape, because right now, while you make these 10 inputs, I want you to stop the tape recorder. Okay, now if everything has gone well, you should be looking at the screen that says entry number 11, and you should have 10 very nice entries in the phone book database. If you don't, if there are problems somewhere, well, we can patch that up in the next routine, but for the time being, let's input the @ character, which we do by holding down the Shift key and touching the key that says P, and it has the @ sign up above. Okay, this is the symbol that we input to terminate. Now actually you can do this at any point in the system. It doesn't have to be in number 1, but this is the best place to do it. Okay, so then we will go ahead and touch return. And on the screen you should see now saving to disk, and the drive is running. All right, that was quick. The data have been recorded. Touch any key to return to main menu. Okay. Again, we see the main menu, and this time we are not starting a new system. We want to edit or add to the files, so we will touch number 2. Again, the drive runs. And this time we're inputting a whole new, we put a new program into the computer now, one we haven't had in before. This one is called Data Editor. Please type input the name of the file you wish to edit. Use catalog to see a listing of the files on the disk. All right, let's do that. Let's use catalog. We'll type catalog and touch return. And now we see a listing of all of the files on the disk. Now here you will see hello, a file called bdpic. This is the basic database picture. Menu 1, menu 2, the DOS mover, the new system, the data editor, and so on. And down at the very bottom you're going to see the phone book file. All of the database files are preceded with a T. They are what is called a text file. And this is the one that we want to install on the machine. So let's type phone book. Now, one moment. Be sure that what you have typed looks exactly like the listing above. Otherwise, it won't be loaded. Okay, we touch return, and phone book is going to be loaded. All right, now we see that we have 10 records in RAM. The fields are name, address, city, phone number, and persons. And we're asked if we wish to edit, add to, or quit. All right. Why don't we touch edit and see what happens there? Now, Shall we change any field names? All right, let's say yes. Which one? Okay, let's change number 5, persons, back to people. So we'll input number 5, touch return. It says input new name. Okay, we've typed people, and this time we need 4 dots after people instead of the 3 we have after persons, because people is 1 letter shorter than persons. So now we touch return, and we see that the field name has been changed. All right, the next choice is add. Let's touch that. Let's touch A. 50 entry limit, okay? This is the opportunity that we have to increase or decrease whatever the size of the database. Let's add to the size of the database, and so we'll touch we'll touch no. The 50 entry limit is not okay. All right, now on your screen, if you've touched N, or for no, you should see the present entry limit must be changed on the disk as well as in the RAM to function properly. Please input the new limit. We will record it and return to the main menu for a restart. Okay, let's input 100. And we'll touch return. Okay, now the new number is being recorded. The data have been recorded. Touch M for the main menu or P for the program. Now here we're given a choice. Okay, so let's go back to the program. We'll touch P. We have 10 records in RAM. The fields are name, address, city, phone number, people, and we were adding 2, so let's go back to that. We'll touch A. 100 entry limit, okay? Let's say yes. All right, now we're presented with entry number 11. I'll tell you what I'd like you to do. I would like you to make 2 more additions, and I would like you to stop the tape recorder at this point and turn the tape over so that you can hear what's on the second side. But before you start the tape recorder again to hear the second side, make 2 more additions, and when we get back together again, you should be looking at entry number 13 and have a blank listing in front of you, just as we do right now. Okay, now let's input another @ character and get out of this inputting routine. And you will notice that the screen now says now saving to disk. The data have been recorded. Touch M for main menu or P for program. We have pretty well exhausted the adding to routine, so let's touch M this time. And when we do that, we see, shall we save the data now in memory? Well, no, we've just done that, so let's not do that. So we'll touch no. And the drive is running again. Okay, this time let's go to number 3, searching or sorting records. Please type input the name of the file you wish to examine. Use catalog to see a listing of the files on the disk. Okay, let's do that. Okay, now we have the listing, and again you see phone book at the bottom. Let's input phone book. Okay, now we have 12 records in RAM. The fields include name, address, city, phone number, people. E is for exit, which would take us back to the main menu, or search in field number. Now here we're asked which field we want to search in. Let's search in number 1, the name. You've selected name. Would you care to find one record, find all records greater than N, find all records less than N, find all records including a string? If we're searching in name, the only way we can search will be for records containing string. So we'll have to touch number 4. Input the string. Okay, so we'll have to input a name of somebody we know, or let's just put in any name and you'll see what happens. But well, for the time being, put in a name of somebody that you know is on the list. All right, now if you've done it correctly in exactly the same way it was installed in the database, then you will see the entry listing for the person that whose name you input. And it says next. Now when you say yes, let's touch yes. It looks for another person with the same name, and if it doesn't find it, then it flashes back another, and that's probably what you have on your screen, and I do too. So let's say no. All right, let's return to the menu, number 6. 12 records in RAM. The fields include name, address, city, people, phone number, and people. Let's search in field number 5 because that's numeric. Okay. Would you care to find one record, or number 2, find all records greater than n? Let's go to number 2, and let's find everybody that's listed that has more than 3 people in their family. Okay, we'll input number 3. All right, and we see the first listing that has a family with more than 3 people in it, and then touch yes, and you'll see the next one, and the next one, and the next one. I have several, and the next one, and then now in my case I am back to the menu because I only had a few that had more than 3. This time, and you should be back to the menu now or very soon, why don't we find all records less than a certain number? So let's touch number 3. And let's input that number. In this case, let's make the number 3 again. Okay. And so I see the first listing of a family, in this case a person I know that lives alone, and we'll go to the next one. Here's another person with a family with 2 people in it, and the next one, and the next one, and now in my case I am back to the menu, and you should be back to the menu too in a couple more keystrokes. Okay, let's return to the menu now. And in this case, we have fairly well exhausted this, so why don't we exit the routine? Okay, so we'll input an E, and this will take us back to the main menu. Now, why don't we analyze the data fields? So we touch number 4. Okay, and this time we don't have to use catalog. Let's just type and make the input phone book. You see, every time we load a new routine, like the record finder or the analyzer, we have to reinstall the database because installing the new routine erases everything that was in before, including the database, and we can't use it. Okay, now again we're informed that we have 12 records in RAM. The fields include name, address, city, phone number, and people. And would you care to examine? Why don't we, because we have numeric data in number 5, why don't we go ahead and input number 5, people. All right, we see, would you care to analyze a numeric variable or analyze a string variable? Well, let's go after the numeric variable, so we'll touch number 1. Shall we tabulate all entries greater than n? Yes, let's do that. Number 1. And let's input, for n, I'll input number 3 because I know I have a bunch of people with more than 3 people in their families. All right, now I'm told that I have 5 entries in the class defined. The set includes the following entries, numbers 1, 4, 9, 10, and 11. Shall we do another? No, let's not do another. Shall we return to the main menu? No, let's not return to the main menu. All right, now what happens this time is that we've gone back to the inputting menu, and we have to reinstall the phone book database again. So let's type that. There's another way to go about this, which I should have taken, and you only learn some of these things by doing, so I don't mind that I've taken you down the garden path, so to speak. Again, let's input number 5. All right, and we're going to analyze again for a numeric variable. Let's find all entries equal to n. So we'll touch number 2 this time. And let's input number n. Let's find everybody in our database that has 2 people in their family. Okay? And in my case, I have only one entry of that kind. One entry, well, this is silly. It sounds silly. One entries are in the class defined. The set includes the following entries, number 6. Another, let's say yes this time, okay? So we go back to the menu for this data analyzer routine, and let's touch number 5 again, and we're analyzing for a numeric variable, and let's find all the entries less than n. Okay, that's number 3, and let's input n, and I'll input number 3. Okay, and it quickly finds that we have 4 entries in the class defined. The set includes the following entries, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Shall we try another? In this case, I don't want to try another. Let's say no. Shall we return to the main menu? Yes. Okay, let's return to the main menu. Now, I want to show you something because we have a very interesting file on this disk that I think you're ready to work with. Let's again touch number 4. And this time we'll do catalog again. Okay, and you will notice that the first of the database files on the disk is called the states. Let's input that one. Now this is a fairly long database, and it takes a while to install, and yet, as I say, it's much larger than our phone book database, but it's a relatively small one. It's only 1/7 the size of that we could install. All right, now we have 50 records in RAM because we have 50 states. The fields are name, population, 70 to 80 change, population density, area in square miles, farm cost in dollars per acre, personal income, state tax in dollars, births per 1,000, infant mortality per 1,000, doctors per 100,000, educational dollar spent per capita, the school population, the dollars spent per pupil, the dollars per teacher for teacher salary, the number of teachers in each state, and the educational attainment in each state. And then we have a statistic for the number of telephones per 1,000 people. All right, let's take a look at number 2, population. And it says you have selected population. Would you care to analyze a numeric variable? Well, that's what it is, so we're going to do that. Shall we tabulate all entries greater than n? Let's do that. This will be interesting. And let's input n. For this particular database, we know that there are a couple of states that have about 20 million people, so let's input the number 15 million. Let's find out how many states have more than 15 million people. Now, one very important thing, and this is the one reason that I picked this particular one, when you input large numbers of this kind in a computer, never use commas the way we do when we write numbers or type them on a typewriter. The comma is a signal to the computer that this is the end of that particular data field. So we have to omit the commas, and this makes inputting large numbers like this a little bit inconvenient. And I find that when I do it, the easiest thing to do is to think in terms of threes. We know that 15 million is 1, 5, 3 zeros, and then 3 more zeros. So let's do exactly that. So I've input the 1, 5. Now here are the first 3 zeros, okay, and then the next 3 zeros. All right. Now, we touch return. We see that 2 entries are in the class defined. The set includes the following entries: number 5, which is California, because they're in the database alphabetically, and number 32, which would be New York. Okay, let's say yes. This will take us back to the database for this particular routine, 50 records in RAM. All right, now at this point, I'm going to leave you with this database in the data analyzer, and then you can also go back to the main menu and you can use the record finder, and you can do lots of things with this. And it'll show you some of the potentials of the system. The system has a lot of potential, and you can make lots of changes and things in it to give it even more. And I want to wish you luck in working with this system. Pay close attention to the manual, the 60-page documentation that we've supplied with it. Please be sure always to work with a copy of the data of the original disk. There is a chance when you start playing with these routines and one thing and another that you can damage one of the original program files on the disk, so be sure that you work with a copy. And with the documentation, if you can make a copy of that, then you can write on it and underline things and one thing and another, and generally make a very good teaching experience, learning experience out of that. So I think you'll find this interesting. If you have suggestions for this program system, then I would like to hear from you. And you can just write to me, Adrian Vance, at our P.O. Box, which is listed on the manual, or give us a phone call. We're in the studio every day during business hours, and we would love to hear from you and find out what you think of this and how you would suggest that we improve it. So thank you very much, and good luck with the system.